Okay, so we are learning Baruch Hashem Chovos Halevavos. We are in the Hakdama, in the introduction, and yesterday we ended up with what medieval thinkers love to do. They love to do the taxonomy of stuff. That is the dividing into categories of different things. It was originated by Aristotle. He was a great taxonomer. He looked at the entire reality, realm of existence, and wanted to put everything into categories. And so he has books categorizing everything that he saw and tried to get a better understanding of it. So here, Rabbeinu Bachya is trying to, what we read was he was trying to provide us different categories of knowledge. Why? Because the blessing of Hashem, the great benefit that Hashem has given to, as he calls them, al-natiqin, which is the rational ones, right? We are beings that are capable of rationality. He gave us chokhmah, ilm. Is that yours?
Yeah, I'm going to turn that off.
Okay.
Can you grab me that?
With his purse. Give him with a purse. Okay, what would you like to call it?
It's a fanny pack.
A fanny. Doesn't that sound worse? Fanny pack. I'm sorry. The fanny pack.
We got British guys in there.
Okay. So he says, وَالْإِمِنْ قَاسِمْ ثَلَاثَ أَقْسَامٍ. Knowledge, the entire realm of human knowledge is divided into three parts. Al-awwal, al-ilm al-tibi'i. Right? Natural sciences. Everything that has to do with the physical world. And then the second category is what we would call practical knowledge or sciences. Math. I know it's not practical. It is. Everybody needs math. Also, geometry. I know. You think, like, really? But yes, geometry is very much needed in the world. So geometry and the study of the stars, not astrology. He's not talking about an astrology. He's talking about astronomy. That's important. And you need to know that. Most of us don't live with knowledge of the stars, but if you did live in a pre-modern society, they would have much more of effect on your life, practically speaking. And then also, music. Music also is very mathematical in a sense. If you learn musical theory, you realize that, they have scales, and the scales have, and the chords are according to a certain part. It gets into very, very complicated matters. So that's the second category. And then he says, وَالْقِسْمَ الْثَالِث الْعِلْمَ الْإِلَهِ. Divine knowledge. What does divine knowledge deal with? وَهُوَ إِلْمَ بِاللَّهِ عَزَ وَجَلَّ. Is the knowledge or study of God. What we would call it in English, theology. Right? So theos, right, is the Greek word for God. Right? Theo. And logos is the study of. Right? The study of God. Trying to understand what is God. And all the things that are connected to that. So he says we have al-ilm billah, and then a subcategory was al-ilm bi-kitabihi, in his book, the study of his book. Right? So what is God's book? The Torah. Baruch Hashem, I was worried you're going to say something. I was like, speaking Arabic, he might slip, Good, you got it. You got it. Good, Baruch Hashem. So his book was Sa'ir al-Ma'qulat, and other things that are known through the intellect, which we talked about yesterday. The soul, this was a whole discussion with Mr. Cab yesterday that he didn't really connect to our discussion there. And he says, aql, and the intellect, ashkhas al-ruhaniyah, which are the angels, different spiritual entities that exist in the world. So all that fall under the knowledge of divine entities. Now he says, this is the fun part. And all of the parts of knowledge are gates that got open to human beings, but their main purpose, I'm going to read the English, the Arabic, because I think it's very, very important. So he says, he opened it, فَفَاتِحَ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ لِلنَّاطِقِينَ لِإِدْرَاكِ الدِّينِ وَالدُّنْيَا بِهَا. All of the types of knowledge that were given to human beings were given for us to study two areas. One, din. Din is religion. Okay? And the other one, dunya. Dunya is this world. This world. Physical world. And the more we advance in science, right, we see the more advanced the world is. Things are much more complicated, right? Whether it's can become a chemist or a physicist or whatever it is, they all have to specialize in very narrow fields because things are so complicated. And we move away from having sort of meta-scientific ideas or concepts. We deal with things, little explanations for little subparticles almost. But all of that was a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It was a present from Hashem to us so that we can understand two realms. The realm of physicality and the realm of religion, of what God has sent down for us. Din. And he says, now some sciences or areas of knowledge are closer to religion, and some of them are more, have to do with practical applications in this world. And those that have to do with this world are lower in status, right? You have to chashivas. And the ones that are higher are the ones that we talk about God, right? So there used to be, in many universities, it's called the School of Divinity, or Divinity School, this was the heart of the true university, whether it was at Harvard or Yale, or this was divinity. That was the big deal. What's divinity? That is the study of the divine, of God. And so then we start getting into, I'm skipping just a little bit, because he says that the ultimate, the highest form is, as we said, divinity. وهو العلم الإلهي فانطلوب به لإدراك الدين به لازم علينا. He says, we have a duty to study religion. We have a duty imposed upon us from Hashem, from God, to study His will. And He revealed His will in the Torah and the books of the prophets. And so he says, but if you study religion in order for you to benefit in this world, that's usur. That's what he says. Okay? So you could use all the sciences to better understand God, but sit here, is that okay? We waited as long as we could. Everything worked out? Okay. So listen, the moyo, I'll tell him to take it easy. Kidding. I don't want letters, So Jeremy, using physics, metaphysics, science, medicine, anatomy, botany, chemistry to better understand God, right? So that the more we understand the world, the more we understand the Creator. That's mutter, that's allowed. You're supposed to do that. But the other way, that is to study religion, to study Gemara, to study halacha, so that you can become a rabbi and famous on YouTube, having billions and billions of people skip your videos, right? So, if you do it, you want to become a rabbi for the money, that's bad. For having kavod, that you walk into a room, in most yeshivas, everybody stands, or sameach, it's beginners, I don't really know. But whatever it is, if you're using the study of divine matters because you want to have physical pleasure, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's using the wrong tools. You're misusing them. And then he says, this is taught to us by our sages, alayhim assalam, right? That's what he writes. Alayhim assalam, peace be upon them. And he brings a brisa, right? A brisa says, la'ava es Hashem Elokecha u'lishmoa bekolo v'ledavka bo. So that we have a mitzvah to love Hashem and to listen to His voice, or what He commanded us, and to cling unto Him, to be fully attached to Hashem. Shelo yomar adam, so a person would not say, Ekra, I will learn Torah, so that people will call me Chacham, that people will call me a rabbi. Or Eshaneh, I will learn Mishnayos, so that people will call me a rabbi. Eshaneh kedei sheyeh zaken v'yoshev b'yeshiva. I will learn Mishnayos and Gemara so that I could sit in yeshiva and everybody will look up at me. Baruch Hashem, we don't live in that type of world, right? There's no tzad that the person could have this thought and Ella, rather study from love. Study the Torah and the teachings of the Tanaim and the Moraim because you love Hashem. And honor is going to come anyway. So you will get the honor. And you don't have to worry. But the motivation of becoming a Talmid Chacham is because of your love and connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not because you want to have a nice job. Not because you want to have a fancy car, right? A lot of money. All the girls say, oh, you're becoming a rabbi? Oh my God. Is that a thing? I don't know. I don't know. When I came here, I was already married. And my wife's like, you think you're going to be a rabbi? What?
You piqued his interest.
Whose interest? Well, I don't know. He's got a better gig of getting girls.
Yeah.
I'm a massage therapist. and no. He says, and no, he's got another line. He told me what the line is. And you don't have to take your clothes off. Right? Did you tell me you say that? Am I right? What?
I didn't say it like that.
Oh, how did you say it? How did you say
I said
it?
it's up to you.
Anyway. See what you're missing, Avi? Just sit and learn Torah and leave it alone. Also, Wakalu, they also taught us the following. Aseh dvarim l'shem po'alam. Do the mitzvot, the things that God commanded for the sake of God. Do it l'shem shamayim. Do it for the right reason. Do it for the right reason. You wake up in the morning, right? To put on tefillin, just say, Hashem, I'm doing it for you. I didn't get up here. I didn't get up at 7:15 in the morning. I know. 7:15? Yeah. People think it's crazy. 7:15. I didn't wake up for myself. I woke up because of you. I want to give you thanks for everything you give me. Have that in mind. And also, daber bahem lishmam, when you speak the words of Torah, do it for their own sake, not to grow your ego, and people think, wow, this rabbi is really cool, so smart, he knows all the psukim, knows how to read Arabic. Yeah, so what? I'm doing it l'shem shamayim, mamish. I have one goal. I want you to understand that if you know what I knew about Hashem, you would love Him exactly the way that I would. The Rambam brings this in Sefer HaMitzvot, in the second mitzvah, right, when it says that you have to love Hashem, and he says anyone who loves Hashem does kiruv, tries to get other people to follow, to believe in Hashem, to be close to Hashem. Why? Because of his love of Hashem. That's it. He's not doing it for money. I work at Ohr Somayach. And you should not use as the words of Torah as a crown to make yourself look important. And certainly not kardom, an axe or a pick to dig with them. You should not use the words of Torah to get wealthy. Sorry, Yudah. Rather, another, he says, Ashrei ish yeret Hashem. Happy is a man who fears Hashem. B'mitzvotav chafetz me'od. And that he desires a lot to fulfill the mitzvot of Hashem, the commandment of Hashem. He also brings Amar Rabbi Lazar b'mitzvoisav, that he wants the mitzvot, not the sachar of the mitzvot. Get it right. Are we going to get rewarded for the mitzvot? Yes, in Olam Haba. But is that the only motivation that you have? That, I just want to have a bigger house in Olam Haba. I want to have a better number on the buffet in Olam Haba. And I don't want just 72 virgins. I want... No. There's no eating. There's no drinking. There's no sleeping. There's no standing. There's no... in Olam Haba. We are with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And that's what we want. That's the reward. But that's not what you should have in mind. Your mind is Hashem put me in this earth, and He's giving me His commandments, and that's what I'm supposed to do. And I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. What I get for it or don't get for it, that's not my business. It's not Kadosh Baruch Hu. He'll decide. Yes, sir. That's fine. You're doing lishma for Hashem, because Hashem wants you to be closer to Him. And that's the only way to connect to Hashem is through mitzvot. Right? Some people think that they can connect to Hashem by coming up with their own ways. For example, interpretive dancing. Right? So they go to places in the middle of nowhere with these big speakers and they go boom, boom, boom. And they think that they're going to get close to Hashem. I feel sad for them. They want the closeness to Hashem. People think, there was a guy once I met, he told me, Rabbi, I only smoke weed on Rosh Chodesh to connect to Hashem. What's next? Hash on Erev Yom Kippur, cocaine on Rosh Hashanah. It's like, come on. No, we don't do something. Hey, clean it up.
No, it's like
what?
What they have? Yeah, not a synagogue. It's like some kind of a snuff, but it smells like
nicotine. It's nicotine.
No, that is just
licorice.
No, but that's not a drug. It's not. That's not.
Well, it is a drug.
No, it's not. Listen, if you smell the tobacco, nothing's gonna happen to you.
No, you put it up your nose.
Oh well, I don't put anything up my nose. My mother taught me nothing goes into your nose but your elbow. What? Yeah.
Because of this.
So you don't, well, you see those people, kind of like this. Like, come on. You're an adult. Get a room, So do it for Hashem. Do it for Hashem. You don't need to search for new ways of connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We connect through the mitzvot. Now, the challenge is, some people will tell you, and I believe them, said, but Rabbi, I don't feel connected. I put on tzitzis, I put on tefillin, I try to daven, I read the words of what it says. I try, but I'm not there. I don't. Okay. So the answer is savlanut. Slowly. Because part of the challenge is that to change the habits that we had certain habits, and that worked for us, that produced certain feelings in us. And now we're doing something completely different, that it's not really part of our nature. It feels strange. One of the hardest things, I think, for guys who decide to start keeping Torah and mitzvahs, is prayer, going to shul. They feel alienated. They feel they don't know what's going on. They get lost. They don't understand. And that's one of the hardest steps until you actually figure out what's going on. So once you start, okay, so then you got mincha down, right? And then one day you show up and it's Friday and it's for mincha before Shabbos, all of a sudden like, what's going on? And then once you get enough of the rhythm, so you got weekday and you got Shabbos pretty much, okay, boom, they slap with Rosh Chodesh. And then they skip around and they jump and they're like, why are we doing Tachnon as Rosh Chodesh? And people look at you like, what, don't you know what's going on? No, I don't. Everybody learned this one way or the other. So those who grew up in religious families, they learn it from their parents, right? Because in one level, Judaism is called a mimetic religion. We mimic our parents, right? It's part of the. But if you became Baal Tshuva in an older age, which means that you didn't have a chance to learn it from your parents through osmosis, so you have to learn it the hard way, and sometimes it's very uncomfortable. But the more uncomfortable you are, the greater your reward in Olam Haba. That's not why you're doing it. You're doing it because that's how we serve Hashem. Right? We're not going to start doing whirling dervishes. Right? That's not how we serve Hashem. We don't have, dance parties. Well, we kind of do. I know, I was here for Simchas Torah. So we do, but it's got to be in a controlled way with as limited alcohol. Well, I guess not. That was out the window too. What? Somebody asked me how was Simchas Torah at Ohr Somayach. So I said, and it's true, I drank more on Simchas Torah at Ohr Somayach than I drink on Purim. They made me have 8 shots in a row.
Let's go. So good. That's it. Great. You can do better.
No, what do you mean you can do better? Who says that's better? The first I was being polite, and then they brought they had these long, not this. I was like, okay, here, come on, Rabbi. So okay, all right, how bad could this be? So, but Baruch Hashem, I did a lot of learning in the morning, so I didn't have to catch up. So I just went to sleep, like on Purim. Baruch Hashem. I didn't see you. You and I didn't have a l'chaim. Maybe I did and I forgot by then. It was after the... So, we should serve Hashem for the sake of the pleasure of serving Him, for the honor of serving Him, rather than getting reward. Now he says, now وَأَمَّا الْأَبْوَابِ الَّتِي فَتِحَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى إِلَى الْعِلْمِ دِينِهِ وَشَرِيعَتِهِ. I love this word. Why? Because people think the word Sharia only applies to Islam. And it means, Islamic law. Sharia, it's Islamic law. Well, Sharia, all the Jews use it to talk about halakha. Sharia is halakha. It also comes from the same root. Shara means to walk, halakha. So, Shariatiha. So he says the gates that God opened to understand His religion and his Torah, Sharia here means Torah, فَثَلَاثِهَا. There are three. Three. The first one is understanding the world of the intellect. Okay, which means that we use our seichel to comprehend what's around us. Okay, the second is, I'm going to read it again so that you get a feeling for this. While bab al-thani, the second bab is bava. Like in Aramaic we say bava kama, bava is the door, gate. So bab al-thani, which is what? Kitab Allah al-Sadiq, al-muwahha bihi al-Rasul alayhim salam. Rasul, huh? A Rasul. We have a Rasul. We don't need Muhammad. We have our own Rasul. Rasul is a messenger, which is Musa, Moses, Musa, Moshe. Musa and Nabi. Well, he's a Rasul here. Yeah. So, but he says, but it could be that we're talking about. Anyway, there's another way of translating it, but I don't want to get into that. But he says we have a book, Kitab, Allah is God, a book of the true God who was revealed to the Rasul, which is Moses. So we have one gate that deals with the world of intellect. The other is the realm of the Torah itself. And the third, الباب الثالث الآثار المنقولة إلى السنة أولين عن الأنبياء عليهم السلام. So he says, and then it's our Masorah, which is very, very important. That we have a Masorah, a tradition that goes back to Moses and the other Nevi'im. Those are the three areas that we study in the study of religion. So when you come to yeshiva, what do we study? We don't really deal with the first one. So bank that at the side. But we do learn Torah. We have shiurim every day in Ohr Somayach on the Chumash. Right? We have. And then we spend considerable amount of time studying the Masorah, which is Mishnah, Talmud, right? And in the Mishnah and the Talmud, we have psukim, verses from the book of the prophets and from the Torah, which connect us, and we see that we are trying to have a better understanding of what is the will of God as revealed in these holy books. Those are the three gates that we have. And he says, now, if you want to understand these three, read the books of Rabbeinu Saadia, Nasr Allah. And Nasr Allah is Nasrallah, right? That's what he says. What is Nasr Allah? Means that God should want him. Because he is so, what? No, I'm talking about Saadia. But he has Saadia Gaon also. So who was Rav Saadia Gaon? Rav Saadia Gaon was one of the leading rabbis of his generation, probably the most important during he was in the 10th century, so 900s to early 11th. He was born in Egypt, in a place called Fayum, which is the old city of where the Jews used to live. He was there. He became a big Talmid. You okay? You need some water? Heimlich? Massage? We got, and apparently you can keep your clothes on. Only if you want to. Sorry, maybe it's the other way around. You can take your clothes off only if you want. That sounds better. So what happened with Rav Saadia is that he was in Egypt, and then from Egypt he went to Tveria and studied in Tveria with the big Chachamim. In the end, he ended up in probably the biggest city in the world at the time, which was Baghdad. And if you know anything about Babylonian Jewish history, so the Jews lived in Bavel in Babylonia from the time of the destruction of the first temple, which was around 586 BCE, okay, until around 1948. That was the longest, probably one of the longest existing Jewish community that had continuous, living in one place. And in Bavel, there was a Shmuel had a yeshiva in a city called Nardea. Okay, so if you look at Egypt, you have the two rivers, right? If you Baghdad, if you have Iraq, you have the two rivers, right? The Tigris and Euphrates, and you have Nardea somewhere in the middle. Okay, that was the main yeshiva in Bavel at the time. And then came Rav, who was a student of Rabbi and Rabbi Chia, came to Bavel. I think he came in the year 221. I think that's the right year. Okay? That's a long time ago. And he came to Nardea, but because, whatever, he wanted to create his own vibe. So he went down south to a place, I think it's around Karbala, and opened the yeshiva there in a town called Sura. And then later on, somebody opened the yeshiva north of Nardea in Pumbedita. And then Nardea essentially closed, and you have Pumbedita and Sura. Those yeshivas existed straight, uninterrupted almost, for more than 800 years. 800 years! It's unbelievable. So at some point, right, this is the Muslims conquer Iraq in the 600s, and it becomes a Muslim country, and then the center of the Islamic empire shifts. It was in Damascus. That's why we have the Masjid al-Aqsa on top of the Temple Mount, and the Dome of the Rock, is because the Caliph of the Muslims lived in Damascus, and he would come to Jerusalem during the winters. Okay, he would come here and had a palace. Maybe he came here. I don't remember when he came here, but he would come. Part of the year he would come, and he didn't want to go to Mecca. That's the story that they tell. But anyway, so they built the Masjid al-Aqsa and the Dome of the Rock. But at some point, the Umayyads were destroyed, and a new dynasty developed. It's called the Abbasids, and they moved the capital of the Islamic Empire from Damascus to Baghdad. And Baghdad became the place. There was Dar al-Hikmah, which was probably the largest university at the time. There were translating and learning all sorts of books. It's an unbelievable place, starting 800. We're talking about 800, okay? So if those who are Eurocentric, thinking of Europe, if you take the year 800, okay, and you just freeze the entire human history, you have the Muslim world in Baghdad. You have a university. They're translating books from India, from Greek, from everywhere you could think of. They're studying and doing all sorts of wonderful, amazing things. Whereas, what is the greatest achievement in Europe at the time? Right? Charlemagne can't even write his name. He's illiterate. But the point is, take 1,000 years later, where in 1800, where's the Muslim world? And where's Europe? Just complete, everybody who asks this question. What happened? You guys were on over here. What happened? So the Islamists, the people that want to destroy us, have their answers. They say that's because we veered off the path of Muhammad. We have to go back to the time of Muhammad and just live a life that we did back then. And the question, they have arguments on how to do that. What does that mean to live a life of Muhammad? No cars, like Amish, or are you going to use modernity, not use modernity, all of the problems that they have. But to our story, so in Baghdad you had two major yeshivot. And to become a Rosh Yeshiva at the time, you must be of certain families from Baghdad. But the head of the Jewish community decided against his better advice to select Rav Saadia to become the head of the Yeshiva of Sura. A guy from Egypt. Now, he was already well known in Baghdad. He was a prolific writer. And Rav Saadia he translated the Torah to Arabic. For those of you who like to practice your Arabic, his translation appears on Sefaria. If you click on translations, you have Onkelos, you have Yonatan ben Uziel, and you have Rav Saadia into Arabic. In Judeo-Arabic, Derech Hagav, for those of you who are interested. So it's fascinating to see how he translates difficult psukim. If you know Arabic, it's better. If you don't know, that it doesn't mean anything to you. You're just like, oh, look at this, more funny letters that I don't understand. So Rav Saadia became the head of Yeshiva Sura, and he wrote. Now there was a period where he and the head of the Jewish community got into a little bit of a pickle, and the Caliph took a side with the head of the Jewish community, and so Saadia escaped and went to hiding for 7 years. And during that period, he wrote a lot of those books. And one of the books that he wrote is a book called the Book of Emunot V'Deot, Opinions and Beliefs. It's a very, very interesting book. Rav Saadia did a lot of things that nobody ever did before. That is, translating the Bible into Arabic, nobody thought about that. To write a dictionary of Hebrew, nobody did that before. He wrote the first prayer book. Okay, you could find it. The Rav Saadia's prayer book. Problem is, it's very difficult for us to use because he did it in alphabetical order, according to the names of the tefillot that he thought the name was, not what you think the name was. And so you can't really use it to pray with. You can only use it to look things up, to see. And he has his own prayers that he wrote in this book. Stay with me. Stay with me. If I can survive without a popsicle. We already davened mincha. What are you looking at? Mincha is at 12:55. So we're continuing. We're not stopping in 45. We're not stopping. Yeah, that's it. Yes, sir.
What was the purpose of translating the Torah into Arabic?
Well, I think the main purpose is to allow more and more Jews to be conversant in what the text says.
There were that many Jews speaking Arabic?
Yeah. I think at that time, the majority of the Jews in the world were Arabic speakers. Remember, they are an empire from India all the way to Spain. Spain was conquered in 711. What?
It was the casinos that did it.
No, at 711 they conquered. Spain. So you have from Spain the entire Eretz Israel, right into where Turkey is. Byzantium still exists. They have a hold there. So you have to. But Iran, Afghanistan, all of that area, all of that is under Muslim rule, and the Arabs are the ones that are in charge. They are the ones that are in charge. And the lingua franca had to speak Arabic.
The Jews weren't speaking Hebrew at that point.
No. I think that most Jews, the shift was from what we would call technically Imperial Aramaic to Arabic. They went from Aramaic to Arabic. They didn't go to... The Hebrew was known. How much, I don't know. How can we know? I mean, but people used it. But when we look at let's say, Cairo Geniza, people use Arabic. They're writing in Arabic. They're speaking in Arabic. That's the... one of the pieces of advice for all of you, if you're ever going to write a sefer that you want the Jewish people to continue learning, you better write it in Hebrew. There are hundreds of works in Arabic that are just sitting in libraries and no one's going to ever read. Because the Jews no longer use Arabic as their language. Any book that was written in Arabic that was translated into Hebrew within a generation or so into Hebrew, then people know that book. But if it wasn't, then people didn't preserve the manuscripts and it's gone. It's sitting somewhere, but we just don't use it because people don't use that language. And you think of all the wonderful, I'm being facetious, German Jewish literature, who reads that? But all the books that are written in English, right? In, 500 years from now, if people would be able to read any of that. You think that, look how long did it take English to become the lingua franca, the most popular language in the world? That's recent. If you when I started my undergraduate, they told me, listen, you need to study European languages. Why? Because any scholarship that was done, it was written in either German or French. That was not English. English was not considered the language of academia. It was German.
But it is now.
It is now, yes.
Americans are lazy. We don't want to learn.
That's not a question of American. I don't think it's simply a question of American. It's certainly the dominance of American culture. But nothing lasts forever. Nothing lasts forever. The dominance of America, I don't know how long it's going to last. We hope, right, as Americans, as long as possible. But if you were a betting man, if you asked me,
It'll burn down.
you better, start picking up Chinese.
Ooh, let's hope not. That. But Mandarin.
What? Mandarin Chinese. Okay, good. No? What's this? Think India? You think like Hindi?
He's thinking Russia.
Russian? I think it's done. I think with all due respect to Russia in terms of its world domination, that door is.
Do you really think they're going to go check? I don't know. Spain never doesn't.
What?
You think it's closed?
I think that door closed. Yeah. I think that. I think Reagan was the one that brought him to their knees. He did. I have to give him credit. He figured out. He says, "Okay, we'll race. We'll see how much you could spend." And they couldn't, and they cracked.
Oh, we don't know. There might still be some sleepers.
What does that mean? Sleepers? What does that mean?
Sleeper agents.
Sleep. That's a separate issue.
We're talking about Reagan. We're talking about the Cold War.
So, can we learn now Chovos Halevavos?
Sorry.
I do have, for those of you, I do have a degree in political science. So I'm not just talking, I am, but I'm not. One of the things that having a PhD means, you could speak authoritatively about things that you have no knowledge of. You could speak as if you really know and sound.
PhD is in
Philosophy.
Oh, okay.
Medieval philosophy.
It's not in political science.
No. But I could.
You still got a degree in.
I got a degree, period. So I can, you know what PhD stands for? Pilot high and deep. So I can, I could sound. I had a professor at NYU who taught Bible, and he was asked by a German encyclopedia to write certain article for the encyclopedia. So he did. And they sent him a translation into German of what he wrote. And he read the German and he goes, wow, I actually believe this stuff. It sounded so authoritative in German. So understanding religion. He says there are two parts to understanding religion. One of them is the duties of the body. We have duties that the body has to do. Correct? For example, tefillin is with our body. Procreation What? Should I tell them on camera? Do you want? I can. Shh, Rabbi. Shh. X-nay on the. So, procreation, it's a mitzvah, correct? Can you do it with a shaliach? No. You have to do it yourself. What? Right. You have certain mitzvot you have to do with your goof, with your body. Right? Tzitzis. You have to have a body in order to do the mitzvah of tzitzit. Eating matzah. Sleeping in a sukkah. Or eating in a sukkah. Why sleeping? Why sleeping? What? It's much more fun. Well, what are you comparing? It's much more fun to sleep in a sukkah than to eat in a sukkah?
Because when you have to eat in the sukkah, it's like, I'm going in the sukkah now. But when you get to sleep in the sukkah, I don't know.
Then you can eat while you're sleeping. Boy. I don't know if that logic works. But we have an aspect of the Torah that is called nigle, revealed. It's called nigle because it's available for everybody, which are the duty of the body, mitzvot of the body. There's a book, a wonderful book. It's called Sefer HaCharedim, that was written by a Rav at the time of the Ari, Al-Azkari, that's his name. And he categorizes the mitzvot according to body parts. So you look at eyes, and he'll give you all the mitzvot that you have to do with your eyes. Tongue, all the mitzvot that you have to do with your tongue. Legs, all the mitzvot that you have to do with your... So it's based on whether it's mitzvahs aseh or lo taseh. Mitzvahs aseh means prescriptive, things that you should do. And lo taseh is prohibitive. Okay? Some people call them negative and positive. I think that's not the right term, because you have a negative mitzvah. Like you get demerits, they remove points from you. No, it's things that you should not do. Anyway. Now, the second category, and this is the whole purpose of the book, is the chovot of the heart. And this is the hidden part. There are certain things that we are required to do, but doing them is we're doing it with our heart or with our mind. Such as believing in one God. Loving Hashem. Loving Hashem is not with your body, right? You're not supposed to create a statue and hug him. Chas v'shalom. So this, he says, there is such a thing called Chovos Halevavos, and that is our conscience, where our mind is, which is termed the heart. We'll stop here, and we'll continue tomorrow. Email to Hashem.